It is February the 1st, 2021. Welcome to Start at Frame 1, the second episode, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Start at Frame 1. I'm Andy. I'm a 2D animator and illustrator, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of insights of my animation process during that stream. If you haven't seen our last stream, we did some pretty cool animation of a walk cycle that you can see directly here on our screen. In Photoshop, everything was done by hand drawn. This is our reference of our guy that we animated. And today we gonna clean it up. So if anybody is not familiar with the term cleanup, this basically means now we're gonna render the final look of our character. So right now, if you wanna look at our walk cycle, let's put it up here. This is what we have so far. Looks pretty sketchy. It's not really, we didn't really focus on the fine lines and all the pretty details that you just saw on the illustration. This has been just an exercise to determine the movements. And so everything looks how we want it to be. And until now, I'm pretty happy with the result. So what we do now is we take this reference and we're gonna draw on top of it with the style we actually want it to be in the end, which means, pause for a second. So we wanna start off with those thick black lines and then afterwards fill everything. And the final thing we want to do is this halftone texture. I hope we're gonna be able to finish today, and that's why I would suggest we just dive in directly. So as I said in the last episode, the where you want to do your cleanup actually really depends on the look you want to have. Photoshop is quite flexible, as you are able to have quite textured brushes for your artwork. TV Paint is also a program I've never used but heard from a lot of people, which also allows to make more textured surface and strokes. A very common program is Adobe Animate, where you actually could get quite some look like here without the halftone pattern, as far as I know. That's also like a remark on that stream. I don't have the recipe for frame by frame animation. I'm just showing you what I have learned on my own in this technique, and until now it worked out pretty well. I was fortunate to bring those techniques into my client work. I started off with keyframe animations, and now bit by bit I'm able to add more and more frame by frame elements. Okay, so if you haven't seen our last stream, we're using a free script that is called AnimDesin, which you can download with the link in the description. It's free and it basically allows you to have this toolbar where you can use, it makes your life easier animating in Photoshop, as Photoshop is not really designed to animate. It's just, it's a adjustment they added like 5 years ago. So you're gonna be confronted with a lot of limitations here. But that said, let's see. Now we just want to bring down the opacity of our reference so we can draw on top of it. And one pretty nice thing about And in essence, I just push that button, I'm gonna get a complete new animation folder with my first frame in the timeline. The layer is basically occupying one frame. I want to have this on force, like our reference here below. And what I normally do is I just bring in another layer or a complete new document, whatever you want, and just do some warm up drawings, because yeah, it just to loosen up your lines, your strokes, to feel a little bit the canvas and getting used of the surface, whatever you're drawing on. I'm drawing on a Cintiq, which is pretty neat to animate frame by frame. 16-inch. And yeah, so you just actually I started doing those exercises and figured that once in a while you actually see different shapes in your lines, and whenever I feel like it and just don't know what to draw, I start with those lines, and sometimes a complete new illustration starts to reveal itself. Okay, so let's create our cleanup. I don't have any special brushes here. I just use like a very simple, like just a basic Photoshop brush. I added a little bit of smoothing, as Photoshop is not really that great with doing smooth lines, as it's pixel based. I read that it's not really able to do that. There are apparently also additional scripts for that, which I haven't tried out. But for example, if you're familiar with the iPad and Procreate, for example, there are some really cool brushes that I really enjoy, as they have this smoothing effect. Like they smooth out pretty nicely while you draw. It's like while you draw, yeah. Photoshop has this smoothing option, but it seems it's smoothing. No, it's smoothing while you draw. In Procreate, you get the smoothing at the end, I think. Well, it feels really cool if you go for some kind of ink aesthetic. There where I really like Procreate, and with the new function in Procreate where you can actually animate, it works quite all right for cleanups. What I don't like is actually animating in Procreate, because it seems not really too, how you want to put this, not too intuitive, the whole way you have to manage your layers and timings and all that stuff. So I normally enjoy, when I work with the iPad, I rather animate in the rough animator, it's called, the app, which is really nice. And depending on the look, I may export the first rough draft and then import it into Procreate to do the cleanup. And that's basically what you're gonna see today. Me doing over and over again the same thing while talking or not talking. So There's also it's the moment where you actually want to have a good podcast, a good playlist, because depending on the project, this could take a while. Here we have, I think it was 8 drawings, yeah. So it's not that bad. And let me see. Okay. I haven't determined yet how this part of his flip-flop is gonna look like. It's gonna be black with white lines or white with black lines. Just keep it like this now and then maybe later figure it out. Okay. And the problem with the smoothing in Photoshop is when you want to do a very quick movement of a stroke or stroke, it actually never, it depends on how much percentage of smoothing you put in, but it never really finishes the stroke. Like it doesn't go until the end because apparently it calculates somehow it always dragging behind the stroke because the program seems to analyze where you are heading with your stroke and then make adjustments to smoothen that stroke out. So for example, if you put in smoothing, now I have 22. If you put 100%, it really drags behind. Like the stroke is so detached from my tip of the pen. So I'm doing a whole circle here, but that's all I get. So this is pretty annoying and not really intuitive. I haven't set up my eraser. Okay. Oh yeah, let's bring it down. I don't know, 22 was all right. It feels like I got cleaner lines, but what's happening? Oh, I don't know. Somehow I created a layer mask. Okay, so all right, so first drawing is already done. And we're gonna continue with the next one. I hope this time the audio of my microphone is a little bit better. I was playing around a little bit with the audio filters as I felt like the last time I had a noise gate, but it feels like the audio is cut off constantly. So I reduced that one. So you people get the complete started frame one experience with the smoothest sounds and the most intriguing visuals you can imagine. Okay. So I also wanted to address my streaming schedule. I plan to do streaming every other day during the week, starting on Mondays. Next one's gonna be on Wednesday. And until now, I'm screaming. I'm scream. I'm streaming at 2 p.m., which is a convenient hour for me. But I think I'm probably gonna try as well some streamings in the evening. So apparently this is something people do in the evening. And so I may want to try this as well. Okay. I'm now streaming at 2 p.m. as it's basically what I would do anyways, like sit here, draw, experiment. I try to do it like I have a fixed schedule for that and making room between client work to do this kind of stuff. Because sometimes you just come up with things that probably may end up in the future in some project, like whether it's just a social media post afterwards and after a while somebody contacts you saying, hey, I saw that tentacle boy just walking and I love that so much. I want a project in this style. So there you go. Which happens mostly. Like people will never come to you. People will never come to you asking you to do something that you haven't done before. So that's why I think it's very important to do personal projects, because if not, you may get stuck in projects that client commission you to do, but maybe you want to try something new, and at least until you don't publish anything in that style, I think nobody's gonna approach you asking you to do such thing for money. That, well, at least in my experience. And so I thought, well, when I'm doing it anyways, I could also just push a button before doing it, so other people can have a look on my process. And I may have contact with other people via chat or messages while I'm working, instead of being here on my own just drawing. Now I'm being here on my own just drawing, and talking to myself. Now you may want to say, I don't know if this is so much better. Oh, we see. Okay, his massive mustache. Oh no, I wanted to research how those things that I just drew are called. In the last stream, they were called tentacle things, and I'm afraid they're gonna be called tentacle things today as well. And I actually wanted to figure out how those things are called. So, live stream number 2, we are still talking about tentacle things. Okay. And if you just do such animations for client work, like the cleanup process is the very, very last step you want to do. Before you do the cleanup process, you want to have approval from your client for the last draft you send, which would be like something like that. I always send those versions to the client because it's obviously so clear how it's gonna be moving. And with our style frame or the illustration that I showed before, you see how it's gonna be looking afterwards. So there shouldn't be, well, there's any revisions of movement once you've done your cleanup process, because that would mean basically that you have to do your cleanup process all over again, which means you have to spend a lot of time, which means that this is cost intense. So here you want to make sure to communicate clearly with your client your process, which is the only way that I know to actually make to be able to hit deadlines. You need an established process, just like a formula, a recipe, which I repeat over and over again, and therefore know how long things can take. I can calculate how long revisions can take depending on where we are in the process. And guarantee like the fluent process for the project. It's also very beneficial for your client because the client always know when to expect which result. So make it clear from the beginning on, maybe show examples so your client knows how the draft would look like, how first, I don't know, movement discoveries would look like. So you don't get a reaction like, oh, but that looks so sketchy, when you're actually just trying to get approval of the movements and not the final rendering look. So I always, when I work with animation, normally the process is that you get a script. In my case, a lot of client come with a script that may, in the best case, already be approved by their client when you work with agencies. And then the first step is actually to determine how long the video with this script is gonna be. So what I do, I just record a very quick draft of me reading the script in a way that could work as a voiceover, knowing that I'm not a voiceover actor, but you get a rough idea of the flow, and you can also see more or less how long the video is gonna be. Once you have this, you may wanna go back to your agency, tell them that there may be problems with the length of the video, depending on what they need and what they want. And then you start to dissect the whole script and think about the separate sections that may be visually interesting, so that you may wanna support by visuals while having a voiceover. And you start with a rough storyboard. That's what I do. So I just draw out some rough ideas of things, of graphics, of characters, of whatever that's gonna be seen in the video while listening to certain parts of the script. Then afterwards, when you have a rough storyboard, the rough idea, what's gonna be visual, I start with an animatic, which is basically can be just your rough storyboard images, one behind another, timed out with your voiceover audio track beneath. So you time the length of every image of your storyboard according to the script. And you have an animatic, which allows you to already have first visual support on your voiceover. This normally goes to the client, so the client gets a first idea of what's gonna be seen in the video, the ideas, how you break down probably abstract scripts and make them clearer. And once the idea is approved, I start with the style frames, which are still images of certain parts of the video, like what you already defined in your storyboard. And then I develop like a design, normally depending on the agreement. I do 2 to 3 design options, so the client can decide which one would work best. And once the design is defined, I translate the whole the style to all the images of the storyboard. So afterwards you get the a clean storyboard, like the same storyboard you did before, more or less. But with a final render style, how it's gonna look like. Once this is approved, so then we actually start to animate. Because then you know how long every sequence, every scene is gonna take, because you already timed it out in your animatic. And you know how everything is gonna look like. You don't have to design in your animation program. Maybe you have to rebuild your design, or just transfer your designs to the animation program. And then you only focus on animation. And that's the best way, as far as I have figured out, to guarantee a clear process, to determine certain deadlines, to milestones where you align with your client, where you can tell your client this is what you can expect on certain moments throughout the project. So you have a clear communication with your client. You can and guarantee that you deliver on time. Oh, by the way, for those who haven't seen something like that before, this creepy glove, it's the naughty glove, is basically for drawing on tablets. It's pretty helpful. I got that one very late. They are so inexpensive, really. But I got that very late because I found it some kind of weird. But once I had it, it's pretty convenient, because you get your lines so much smoother as you slide on your screen. And without the glove, you probably gonna stick to the tablet surface, and so you're not able to finish the whole stroke. You have to reposition your hand where your stroke stopped, and then it's not that smooth. And sometimes I even use it on the iPad. But I think you need it mostly when you're moving your hand on the whole tablet surface. I think when your tablet is small, like my iPad, you don't really slide with your hand through the whole surface of the tablet, and probably won't need it. But as I said, like it's very, very cheap. I highly recommend trying one. Mm. On the weekend, I also tried a little bit of doing other movements for the Tentacle Boy. It seems like such a perfect character to animate with the simple shapes of the whole design. And I'm gonna see once we have the cleanup for this one, what's gonna be the next thing we're gonna cover in the stream. I thought about maybe doing some 2D special effects, like some kind of smoke, or we could do some other movements for Tentacle Boy. I don't know. Let me know in the comments or via chat what you would be interested in, and we see if I can cover that. And also let me know if you prefer watching streams with music. I decided not to put in any music. Not only because of the restrictions that you have because of the copyrights and all that stuff, but I felt like you probably want to hear your own music while listening to the stream. So I won't pretend that I'm gonna hit your taste of music. So I could share the the playlist I'm listening to, just in case. But I think you should have the freedom to listen to your own music while listening to a streaming. But maybe I'm mistaken. Okay. Okay, I think this is our last image, at least for the outlines. And then we can directly go into the coloring. Okay. This weekend I watched Life of Pi. I've seen it a few years back and I really liked it. I don't know if you know that when you have seen a movie you don't really remember it, but you know it was awesome. This is basically the best situation because you already know you're gonna watch a cool movie. You actually know it's gonna be good without really knowing what it's about or not in detail. I don't know, that's what's happened with Life of Pi. And I remember when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, what a great movie. But thought like, what a pity. This is one of those movies you cannot watch twice because it has this twist at the end of the movie. So very difficult. But yeah, I think I don't know when it came out, the movie, but I still very, very much feel like this leg is off. That happened last time. And look at me. Now I'm in the cleanup process and starting to tweak things that should have been approved. But this is just a little tweak that won't through over the whole animation process. So I take the liberty to make those changes here. All right. Let's see. I think so. All right, so I call this outline. Gonna bring, and I think at least those two, we don't need them anymore. This is gonna be our sketch. Just keep it a little bit organized. As I told, like Photoshop has a few walkarounds that you have to have in mind when you want to do frame by frame animation. But it's doable. So now I want to do a new animation folder. What I do now, I'm gonna bring my reference in here so I just can color pick easily my colors. So let me see if this works. So so with the magic, how's it called, this one? The magic wand. I'm just gonna select what I wanna fill, and you can created myself own action if you want, which is basically expanding the selection about 2 pixels and filling it and deselecting it at once, like nothing too fancy. And do we have here like sample all layers probably. So he has, although we are not on the right layer that we want to have as a reference. We still get the right color. Okay. So what I now create is basically just a fill layer, which looks like this. When I toggle off the outline, you see the fill layer. And this is how I gonna continue. I was having my reference color as for colors. Sock. Cool. It's a little bit annoying because I have this action activated. I can use this action by the F2 button on my keyboard, which is now only be activated if I use the function keys with it. It makes it a little bit more complicated. So now it's easier, faster. So with this, oh, I forgot the hard shadows. You see here on the legs, here. This is gonna be probably on the outline. Oh, doesn't matter. We can put it in later. Now put in the colors first, and later watch out for other details that may be needed. Afterwards, we're gonna need those highlights. Okay. So you see with the action that I created for this helps me to fill those layers quite easily, those selections here, just by pushing the F2 button. Just fills it. Which is pretty practical in Animate, for example. You just have your bucket tool and you just fill that stuff that you already drew the outlines of, and it just fills it. So another advantage of Animate. And I really I could imagine I'm not a big Animate fan because maybe I have still a lack of understanding the whole program, and but even with asking other animators and people that worked on animation next to me in some co-workings, I don't feel it's a very practical tool. There's so many workarounds that you have to do in order to get to the result you want, and it feels pretty rigid. I heard Toon Boom is a pretty insane software for frame-by-frame animation, and actually when I started with animation, I got a trial version. I think it was a trial version for Toon Boom, but without having any knowledge at all with 2D animation. Not really. Back then I didn't really knew if I actually gonna continue to pursue 2D anime or frame-by-frame animation, so I felt like I don't know if I really get the software or just use Animate, which is already in the Creative Cloud subscription I pay every month. So yeah, probably that's why most or so many people use Adobe Animate without being probably, maybe it's the most accessible tool, but not the most convenient. Could be. I also heard about, I don't know if it's called Grita or it's a free frame-by-frame software, which I haven't tried yet. I think I downloaded it already, but never actually animated. Look at that, we still have a this one has to be filled, and is on the outline layer. Yeah, Krita looked interesting. Never tried it. Probably would be also very fun streaming to do just first approaches on a new software. Still don't know though how it's gonna be with the implementation in your work process, where as well Adobe Animate has a lot of advantages when you work with After Effects. And I heard about, that's it called, Time Lord, which is a script for for After Effects, I think it is. But what is, I know Overlord, which is from the same guy, and Overlord basically helps you to pass your layers from Illustrator by one click directly in the composition in After Effects where you're working at, which is insanely helpful. It's amazing that this is not standard within the Creative Cloud apps. I really, since I have this script, it changed a lot because your workflow is so much faster. And I think it's like 30 bucks. And totally worth it. And now they brought out Time Lord, which apparently does the same thing on with Photoshop and Illustrator. So apparently you can just by one click pass your Photoshop layers and also Photoshop animations to After Effects, which normally would be saving as import with all the layers and so on. Not even talking about animations made in Photoshop where you just first have to render out your animation file and then import it. And apparently this script does a really good job on doing everything for you. So, actually wanted to, I was thinking about getting it in on Black Friday, but as it goes, there are so many things you want to have on Black Friday. This script didn't make it. Mhm. Okay, I think with this fine areas, I'm just gonna draw with the brush because the magic wand doesn't really get everything covered. Okay. All right, now we have step number 2. We added color to our outlines. Still looking good. We are on our way. So let's cover those black dark shadows. I'm gonna switch off for one moment my fill layer. So first of all, let's see. Okay. So I think I want the sun to be coming from this direction, which will define where my shadows are gonna be. And this is gonna be so. Okay, maybe I want to add some shadow here so it looks like this mustache is actually here. It's pretty close to the body, but here it creates a shadow, which means it's a little bit further away. I want to have definitely want to get some volume on the beanie, so just create this line here, and this arm is definitely gonna cause a hard shadow. You also want to have this here. This overlap is going to create a shadow. Here we're going to have a shadow. Here. Okay. As well. Hmm. Okay. Have you seen any other area? Okay. So let's see. Bam, badam. Okay. We're going to continue with dark shadows. Just always having in mind where the sun is coming from, so you actually can determine where your shadow is falling on the body. We determined it's coming from this direction, which means we're gonna have the shadow wherever you have like a bigger volume, like this beanie, it's gonna cast shadow as the sun falls here, and we're gonna switch back and forth between the frames to see if the shadow here is working out. So we don't have too heavy chumps on the shadow. Okay. I'm gonna leave a white, a negative space here, so we're not having black and black here. Which probably is gonna be, doesn't really matter. Once we play the animation, I think those are the things like where frame by frame animation, although you paint every drawing and you want to make it perfect, some of those things won't be visible afterwards, as your eye won't be able to catch it within the 2 frames or whatever it's gonna be visible. So okay. So now our arm is passing by, the sun is coming from this direction, so he's gonna throw a shadow here. Okay. Those hard shadows are gonna add so much volume already to our character. Okay. And key. So the beanie here, a little bit of a shadow to make it a little bit more volume. Okay. Here is the the further out he stretches his arm, the closer it gets to his body. So the shadow is gonna be smaller. The surface of the shadow here. This creates the illusion of the arm being closer to the body. If we made the shadow like this, so it looks some kind of as if the arm is stretching out, but towards the camera. But this shadow looks more like the arm is closer to the body. Here, maybe this already casts some shadow here, but mostly we got shadow here in the back. Okay. And another shadow here. Let's see, just the shadow of the arm. Because here it jumps too much. Maybe I want to bring down, maybe here the arm looks like it's further away than it should be. So let's clean it up. Yeah, like this better. It's not jumping too much. All right, let's take a look at the legs here. I'm gonna leave a little bit of a negative space here, so it's not gonna be black and black. Okay. All right. Good. So here the best way to determine if the shadow is on the right position now is basically just toggle through your layers and see if the movement looks right. This one seems like nearly everything here is black. Now I probably want to duplicate the first image so I can see it compared to the last image. Like so. Right. See. Okay, let's see how this looks with colors. All right. We're getting somewhere here. We're still missing some color. Okay. Now I'm gonna take a look at the socks. Sock shadow. And I'm wondering if we will want to have, see it's starting here, probably want to have some hard shadow as well here because it's behind the body and the body may throw some hard shadows on the arm in the back. So by curving this shadow you get you can exaggerate like the roundness of the tentacle here. Like if I just made the shadow like so, would look like complete plane, the tentacle. But as it supposedly is rounded, the shadow should be as well. Okay. As well, still get some shadow. There we go. Here's well the beanie. Get this volume right. Add in some shadow here. Just gonna make the beanie stick out and elevates it from the body, so it looks like there's a new volume on top of it. Okay. And we are about to finish with our hard shadows and gonna continue with the highlights afterwards. So in order to make our tentacle boy as glibbery and slippery as possible, we want to add in some very thin highlights, that some specular on this glibbery surface. Okay, let's see if we okay, looks good. And I may want to use another layer here because I probably want to use some onion skin here. And what's the problem with the fill here? Like, just to show you, if I get in now into the onion skin, I really don't see any. I just whatever color I would draw on top of the of the of this color, I won't see in the onion skin. So probably want to have this separate. So, and we call this specular. I think it's called specular, and I only know this name, this term, as it is called specular, I think, in Cinema 4D. And I'm telling you, I don't know too much about Cinema 4D, but what I know or what I learned helped me so much to improve such things as so you see those highlights, they're gonna make it more glibbery and slippery and tentacle boy. And we're gonna have a look at how actually how exact we want to have those. Actually, let me see. Sorry, I just saw here we have a small hole to fill. Okay, so now the specular is basically a reflection of of our light source, which we determined comes from this direction. All right. Read something pretty. Hey to you as well. How are you doing today? Welcome to the live stream and enjoy yourself. And feel free to comment and make any. If you have any questions, shoot. That's why we're doing this. Oh, you love this. I'm so happy to hear that. Do you animate on your own? Are you doing animation? See. Well, that's a good start. You're not good at animating at all, but you love illustrating. Well, basically it's I don't know, maybe we can break it down. Animating is like doing a lot of illustrations for 1 second. But maybe you want to dive into animation. I don't know. I'll Procreate and that's it. Well, that's a start, I think. As Procreate started now with this option, it's so okay. So now I'm just gonna see if this works. Just to bring it like close enough to each other so you don't have too much jumping of the specular here. So it's not getting too jittery afterwards. So you just have to think about where the light source is coming and think about what part of the volume is actually looking towards the light source. So this part here won't have any specular as it is beneath our volume, but I probably want to put in some specular here, especially as it's an edge. Just gonna make it a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay. So now the jump from this position of the arm to this one is pretty notable. So you won't note any chunks of the specular. So those are the moments where you actually can just position them wherever you want. So you don't have to have in mind like, okay, this one is here, so as it swings over here, the position of the specular has to be here. I don't do that. Like you could even leave one of the specular here. Here it was 3 highlights. You could even reduce it, I suppose. Well, just try it out and see if it looks good, but not to overcomplicate it, as you have to have in mind like. I see. Here I feel as well like the jump is very big, so just drawing a little bit of highlights here probably. Okay. And so why I drew those highlights on a separate layer is basically when I now put on the onion skin. Whoa. I don't see anything. Probably want to change the background color. So now I can just focus on my specular here. If I needed to position it like very close to the image, to the previous image, in order to not make it jump too much, I could do this. Okay. Colors off. Okay. Here I probably want to look on the specular, the previous image. So as the arm reaches out here, the specular would probably also be a little bit further out compared to the previous image. So okay, I think this works. The same here. And so it goes. Yes. Okay. And the last one for our specular. What we still have to do are those little dots. So you see, like the specular is gonna give a feeling of this slippery skin of his, but it's not that present that you actually would see too much of a jitter within switching from image to from drawing to drawing. Therefore, the movements are too fast. If we would have him like stretching his arms out here, not only over 2 drawings but more, then we want to make sure that the highlights won't jump too much. But in this case, as it's fast, it's actually pretty impressive. Like the faster your movements in frame by frame animation, the more forgiving they are, as you're not really able to see every detail in each drawing. So okay, we're getting there. So now you see I put in those freckles, which just make it a little bit more organic. Let's see if we can put some of those in here. And I'm really going just like, probably want to make always like more or less groups of 2 or 3. Vary the shape or the size of them. And maybe something like that. And here want to switch off the fill so I can activate my onion skin. That's also like a very big problem in Photoshop. Like you cannot tell which layer you would like to have the onion skin on. It's just doing every layer that is active. And yeah, that's a little bit annoying. And apparently I haven't. Okay. I drew the freckles on the wrong layer. That is no problem. We just do it again. Okay. So here. Okay, I think that's all right. It's enough. Here's well the technique that I mentioned in the last stream. Sometimes it's easier, instead of onion skin, just switching between your drawings. Like just look of the movement. With the onion skin, you only have a reference, but you never really see how this is gonna look when moving. Like you see here, it jumps towards the face, this group, so it's not what I really want. And now it's rotating some weird something. Yeah, looks a little bit off. I think they're getting too close. Let's try this. Okay. Here's well, we can start from the beginning again. Like this is actually the other side of the tentacle, so there won't be even freckles that we've seen before. And here goes as well, like it's very jumpy. So we want to keep it like a group of 3 here to not be too inconsistent. And here's well, now we see the other side of the tentacle. We had some freckles here before, which we don't have a direct reference from the previous image, so we can just position them on a new position. Maybe we want to have some here. Wouldn't worry too much about this. Now we're getting to the point where our jump from the arm, where as he reaches out, is like a little like this image and this image are very close. So here we have want to be careful with the positioning of such elements as the freckles, as we want the movement to be continuous. So like this. Okay. Got here. Freckles in here. Okay. Last. Probably also want to duplicate the first image so I have it again as a comparison. Well, wrong layer. Fill not. Specular duplicate. Put it on the back so. Okay. Okay, let's look at the result, how it's working out. Looks all right. There's some. I think we'll leave it for that for now. And what comes next is a. So we have our colors, we have our highlights, freckles, we have our hard shadows. What's missing is this halftone pattern. I actually haven't prepared the pattern. Let me see. This is some kind of resource I reuse quite often. And I just copied from project to project, which is not very organized. Let's see. Here, material now. Let's see if this one works out. No, this is just texture. Sorry for that, but halftone, is it this? Well, I suppose this would work. So, but what we actually want to do, let's see how dense we want to get our halftone pattern. Probably like this. And what? Okay. So now I want to duplicate it. Not you. Put it top of this. Just want to combine those two so I have a bigger surface. I just flatten them out. So I make sure everything is inside the pattern. See here the tentacle is reaching out. No problem. We just duplicate it again. And create. Yeah. Put this like here. Okay. All right. So now everything is covered. Okay, we hide this layer for 1 second. And now I'm creating just basically another fill shape for wherever I want this pattern to be. Going to toggle off the fill layer. I'm going to put in another one that's called halftone. So now what I want to do, I want to draw, get the same color. I want to draw wherever I think shadows would be. So now I have to think in volumes. So this side of the tentacle is probably is rounded out and going let's see. Okay, like so. And now my idea is I want to put in the halftone, and by clicking Alt, it's just gonna be visible wherever what happened. Yeah. Okay. So it's just gonna be visible wherever I put in a fill beneath in this animation layer. So we're gonna get this effect. I hope this makes sense and you can follow me along. And now I just want to paint in the shadows. So just to make it again visible, this is what I'm actually drawing. Probably gonna add as well some halftone wherever a hard shadow was, so it's like soften out. Okay. I want to have some actually you also want to have some shadows here where the tentacle is closer to the body. It would make more sense if actually the sun is coming from this direction, that the whole tentacle is in shadows. Oh, why not? Let's try it. You can reverse it afterwards. And everything that's turned away from our light source, like this here. So, okay. So on the beanie as well. So well on the legs. Okay. And we're gonna continue. So as you have to imagine those legs as tubes, the sun is only hitting, or the light is only hitting on this side. On the other side, we already have some kind of a shadow as it's rounded out. That's why we see our half-tone pattern here. This part is basically just because the whole lower side of the body is in shadows. Okay. See how this works out. Okay. Here on the hard shadows, we want some softening out. If the whole black area is the hard shadow, this is more or less like the soft shadow, or the bounce shadow, I think it's called. Okay. I think that's for the green. Oh, this is not supposed to be green. So the whole tentacle is gonna be with half tones. This probably as well. I'm pretty sure that there's a half tone brush that you could use instead of doing it the way I do it. Well, I think it's just how I did the illustration, I guess, and so I'm gonna stuck with the process. But there are a lot of ways to achieve your looks, and that is drawing number 2. I suppose this one here as well is gonna be shadow, although it's not really recognizable, but just in case. So let's continue with the orange color, as we already have our color on the brush. Here as well could be some volumes. Okay. Sometimes you draw and then you figure, oh, that makes sense, but I haven't done it on the, ooh, look at that, on the previous image. So this is not supposed to be green. And So this, you see, the more details you want to bring into your render, the more passes on the cleanup you have to do, because every detail has to be added on each frame. And well, this animation is quite short. We only did it on 4s, which means like every image is 4 frames long. But if you have long shots, complex animations, slow movements, those are all things that may complicate your illustration. So your animation, sorry. That's why I actually like to do it. Well, illustration when I got to do commissions only on illustrations. It's pretty cool to not think about those limitations and just do one drawing. Probably end up doing more drawings just to make sure your client is gonna like it, but in general you don't have to do 12 drawings per second or something like that. Okay. Look here as well. I've just realized I forgot the legs here. So make sure you double check your drawings in order to make everything right. Well, afterwards, I think those things that you forget may pop up when you review and play the animation. You may want to realize that suddenly there's some points, some glitches, which may mean that you forgot some areas to draw. Okay. Here I probably don't want to have the whole upper lower part of the tentacle to be with halftones, as this part is directly hit by the light source, which makes it more three-dimensional. Okay. The socks again. Oh, where's the socks? Okay. Sometimes Photoshop does weird stuff. Okay. Next one. So now here actually the whole beanie is rotating. May have forgotten that. Like this is just the behind of the beanie, and now as he rotates towards or away from the camera, we actually see more of this part of the beanie. And as we think about a volume here, and it's a cube, this is the back side of the cube, which actually won't be lit up. So as well, it should come till here. And Okay, we switch to the green. So here. So you see this line defines where the back of the cube is. So this part here is completely with halftones as it lies in the shadow. Here we want to add some softer shadows additional to the hard one. Gonna put a volume on the legs and I think that's it for this one. Okay. So I won't be able to stream today after 4 p.m. so I will have to finish the stream in a bit in order to jump on a meeting. But if anybody in the chat or who's watching would like to see any specific animation related things or illustration related things in the next stream on Wednesday, I'm open for suggestions. Let me know what you're interested in, and I will have a look and see if I'm able to help you out and shine a light on some doubts you might have. If not, I was thinking, as I said earlier, of maybe doing some 2D special effects, which is pretty fun, as it won't be post-to-pose animation like we did it here, which means I have a start pose and I have a finish pose, and then I've put in the breakdown pose, and so I actually define start and end and then figure out how the animation is going to look in between. When you do a straightforward animation, you just start with the first image and then look where the animation is going to take you, which is pretty fun. But depending on what you're doing, really, really difficult to time. And you can easily run into problems when it comes to deadlines. So really depends on what you're doing. The straightforward technique may cause some problems. But for the purpose of a 2D special effects, it's brilliant, as you like. You don't even if you don't have any reference where you have to hit or whatever need the smoke to be, you can just go with the flow and see where the animation is going. So I'm probably gonna do this for the next stream, unless there are some questions and some suggestions. Okay, maybe we can finish this animation off for today before I have to leave. Would be great. Okay. as well don't want to have everything in shadows, as there probably gonna be some light shining from behind the body on this end of the tentacle. All right, let's activate our fill layer and enjoy the show. Okay. So that's our animation for today. I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you like it too. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really looking forward to continue my next stream on Wednesday. It's gonna be as well 2 p.m. And yeah, hit me with a comment or contact me via Instagram, or oh my god, I haven't put in my special animation for the, let me see here, I prepared this. Oh, look at that. Yeah, here's my Instagram. In case you want to see other work, you can also check out my client work. And yeah, contact me if you have any suggestions, any questions, and I'm really looking forward to see you again on Wednesday. So far, thanks a lot and have a great day. Bye.